make no mistake, we need to regard this group as a very serious threat on our campus. MRA spreading lies, we can see through your disguise. MRA spreading lies. No way, MRAs, we want you to go away. No way, MRAs, we want you to go away.
Since the late 1990s, it seemed to me that much of what feminism claimed about the organization of our culture to privilege men was demonstrably not true. It seemed to me that feminism needed to deny the gains that women had so obviously made, the tremendous gains, in order to continue to imagine themselves as victims, in order to, for political ends. And I just thought, I began to think, actually, I began to wonder what it must be like to be a young man at university. That was the thing, really, sitting through course after course after course, whether he was taking an English course or a history course or a philosophy course or some sort of sociology, whatever, and just hearing about how the whole history of humanity had been a history of men oppressing women, and how even now, supposedly, he should feel bad about his privileges.
I am a white heterosexual male, so I personally feel that I enjoy a lot of the privilege that a lot of people in this room, in this country, in this world do not.
Both on a conscious and subconscious level that I have benefited from being a white male.
I'm white, I'm male, straight, I'm temporarily able-bodied, and I'm socially acceptable body size, so I just like to check my privilege first.
Hearing over and over again about how they're responsible for all the bad things in the world, that if there were fewer men or they were just less manly or something, that somehow we wouldn't have any more wars and everybody would live abundant, peaceful lives, and women were more, more collectivist oriented, and women are more egalitarian. All these things, demonstrably not true. If anyone has ever spent time in a women's organization or lived in a, with a bunch of women, even the claims around rape, that women never lie about rape and all of that. Well, of course women lie, and women are as faulty as human beings as men are, and women abuse power, and women are violent, and all of these other things. And so it just seemed to me that the worldview of feminism was both false and damaging to men, especially young men at university. So that was what I'd felt for a long time, but I didn't really have a chance to say it. But then when I saw the Warren Farrell protests that you had filmed, I realized that there was actually an organization called the Canadian Association for Equality, I felt quite excited. And so I wrote right away. I joined the organization, and I wrote right away to say that if there was a chapter in Ottawa, that I'd be interested in being involved in some way.
No violence, man! Jesus! Big man! Big man!
Used to be called,
Sir, stand at the back.
what is now called April. Used
That's
to be
fine.
just called
But right
Exciting.
now, there's a temporary delay.
Said Warren Farrell.
Try to get sorted out.
of his famous quotes. He called date rape exciting, which is just horrible and misogynistic. There's nothing exciting or fun about rape. Rape is horrible, and we don't tolerate that sort of thought at U of T.
You're doing it really well. Good job.
Very frustrated. I was studying all today, and I took time out of my studies to come here.
Would you like to ask him why he's here?
I'm not sufficiently convinced that I'll receive an answer that isn't what I've presented.
2 of my friends committed suicide, and I want the peace of understanding why that happened.
Wow. When did this happen?
It happened about 2 years ago. It was one after the other like that.
Did you expect to get some addressing of suicide issue at the talk here?
Yes, I did.
What I have to ask on that, and I'll ask you, is why this space to talk about that? Feminism, for example, offers lots of spaces to talk about mental health issues, talk about depression, both in men, women, and people who don't identify within the binary.
I think everybody's voice should be heard. I wondered why the security was trying to keep me back, and I think it's for my own safety.
This is what men's rights look like. This is what men's rights look like. This is what men's rights look like. This is what men's rights. Yeah, they're fucking dumb. Fuck you. They're fucking pigs.
So you believe it's hate speech, right?
It is hate speech.
I've never heard him before. I don't even know what he's talking. I've never heard of him before.
We invite you to educate
I just
yourself.
so I just wanted to listen to him.
Go on Google.
I just wanted to see who this guy is and what he's talking about. But now I can't get in.
You should be fucking ashamed of yourself. You're fucking scum. You are fucking scum. Fucking rape apologist, incest supporting, woman hating, fucking scum.
Is there someone else I can wait? Does someone follow me?
Fucking scum. Yeah, just another.
I just want to listen to someone else's opinion. I'm not even on a side here. I just listen to as many people as I can.
You know what though? Why would you pay money to fucking support a fucking rape apologist if you weren't fucking one?
I've never heard him say anything that was.
Well, it's fucking scum.
You have a ticket?
Yeah, you should be fucking proud of yourself. These are the fucking men that are going to rape your sisters and the women in your life. You should be fucking ashamed.
And you quickly did get involved, quite deeply involved. My memory is right in last March. About almost a year ago to the day now, you did your first lecture on this topic at the University of Toronto.
Yes.
That's right. And that was protested fairly strongly too. We caught some of that on tape with the fire alarms and the demonstrators outside and clearing the building out. And then there was quite the questions, challenging, challenges from the audience at that one.
Yeah.
This is new to you, right? All of this kind of
well,
drama?
certainly my role in it is new. I wasn't surprised really by the heated response, because when one believes strongly in an ideology that posits that young women in general are victims, one develops a self-righteous outrage at the rest of the world, particularly at men, and then to have that, but it's also thrilling, it's a thrilling thing to be able to say that you're a victim and that you're fighting, you're smashing the patriarchy and all that. The experience is exhilarating, it's heady, it's very pleasurable actually.
Addictive. In
it is.
Sense,
it's
right?
a kind of addiction actually.
And
there's
you
a
got
real
into a little
rush.
bit of that in your early days as a
Yeah,
feminist?
sure. I marched in the Take Back the Night marches and all of that. And it's so then, it's great. You bond with other people through your shared sense of victimization. So to have someone come along and say, especially a woman, come along and say, come on, it isn't actually that way. Women are actually very protected and privileged in our society. Well, the response is to deny it. And in fact, feminism's response now is to try to actually shut it down altogether.
Shut down
if
the
they
discourse.
can. Yeah, to be the sole voice speaking on gender issues. it's clear that a vocal minority on this campus didn't want me to be allowed to say one word. Last week, some students proposed a motion at the AMS Assembly to de-ratify the Men's Issues Awareness Society. I'm sure you all know that. The reason they said was, quote, because of the manner in which its members have chosen to publicly undermine feminism and anti-rape culture discourse on campus. The University of Toronto Students' Union denied certification to the Men's Issues Awareness Society there in December of 2012. In March of 2013, the Ryerson Students' Union denied certification to a men's issues group. It was 2 women and 1 man who wanted to start it up. The union was officially opposed to the concept of misandry and that it would not tolerate any group or events that neglected to, quote, center women's voices in the struggle for gender equality. Actually, there it misspoke because what really it meant was that neither men nor women have the right to discuss men's issues outside of the feminist evil patriarchy model.
We're here to shut down an event that is promoting the patriarchy.
No hate speech on campus! No hate speech on campus! Stop Warren Farrell! Stop Warren Farrell!
Freedom of speech ends when hate speech begins, and it is right there next door to us.
Chase them off the campus.
It's my hope that as a result of my talk, a few of you may decide to... Okay, you know, it's the signature... It's the signature of a totalitarian ideology to attempt to quash dissent. So every time you interrupt, you're merely showing your repressive tendencies. You're not showing anything about your virtue.
This event has no place at my campus, and it's not going to be here.
If you are still interested and are going to be civil, we're going to another room.
And don't come back.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah, right.
Let me in on the joke, or is it because I can't, because I'm not a dude, so I can't get these jokes. Just like I can't get all kinds of equality issues, and my feminism is worse than yours. Well, y'all are being oppressed by capitalism, and our common enemy is capitalism. We should be fighting that.
Oppression means stopping people from expressing their point of view. That's what you're doing. So to pretend that you're not an oppressor,
there's a huge difference in magnitude between allowing, between telling fascists that they can't spew fascist hate and then beating.
How do you know it's fascist if you haven't heard it?
It smells like sweaty balls is what it smells
it's
like.
It's what made this. It's what gave you the opportunity to do this, capitalism. Go to North Korea.
Sir, there's a fire alarm. You have to leave now.
I guess it's a fire alarm. No, oh. Hey, you got to leave the building. Let's go. What it sounds like? Oh, that's nice talking.
Is that a fire alarm? That's a fire alarm?
Okay. This is,
Get out. Get out.
You may be the only academic strongly criticizing women's studies.
Maybe in Canada,
Canada.
Many departments in universities across Canada that where the faculty would be quite determined to limit the career prospects of someone who would speak against the orthodoxy. So they don't want to be called, rape apologists or misogynists.
There is something extremely misogynistic about the way that you denounce feminism.
Universities should be a place where people pursue truth. It has been taken over by a large number of people with a strongly activist mentality. They believe, almost as a kind of religious faith, that they are in their positions to change the consciousness of the young people that they teach, not to teach them a subject, but to change the way they view the world. And activism is fine in our society, but it should not be taking place with professors who have a captive audience of students. I think it's morally wrong and intellectually wrong.
And that's what we saw at the Warren Farrell protest, is that many of those young students, first-year students, 2 months into their studies at women's studies, were sent out to protest. They had a quote in their hand, but that was the extent of it.
Yeah, it really is an abuse of the professor's position. And I would never do that to my students.
I'm the teacher to many young men in this room, and I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
I personally think it might be counterproductive to come into the room and attack feminism. And it's not a mystery that that's not really the group of people you really want to pick off.
Absurd. Because you said, what if none of it is true? What if many of these statistics are faulty?
But we know that the statistics are faulty.
Which statistics?
The statistics about rape. The statistics about rape. Do you want me to tell you about the statistics about rape? The statistic that is always used is that 1 in 4 or 1 in 5 women will be sexually assaulted in her lifetime. If you read Christina Hoff Sommers' book, Who Stole Feminism, she talks extensively about where those statistics came from, the faulty methodology that was used to derive those statistics, the fact that it was based on a survey in which 74% of the women who were surveyed said that they did not consider that what had happened to them was rape, and yet they were defined by this particular woman, Mary Koss. This became the Ms. report in the late 1980s about the experience of rape by women.
Not all rape is sexual assault.
It was based on the women who had reported their experiences said they did not think that what they had experienced was rape, and yet Mary Koss, the researcher, claimed that it was rape. It was also based on a question asking, did you ever have sex when you didn't want to because you had been drinking? If you take out the number of women who said, is that rape?
Yes.
That you had?
2011 Supreme Court decision, if you lack...
Well, just because it's... Well, let's... Come on. Come on.
You are in direct contravention of the Supreme Court.
Just because it's in law does not say that it's right. Okay? And also, just because you are drinking does not mean that you lack the ability to consent. Now, are we going to take that the other way then? What about the young men who are also drinking? Are they fully responsible for their actions, and yet the woman is not responsible for her actions in any way? Is this not...
I can't hear you.
What's the name of the person making the argument?
Well, I'm making the latter argument.
Where's the study substantiating this claim?
It's pure logic, isn't it? That if two people are drinking and the law has decided, the law by feminist legal theorists influenced, has decided that just because a woman is drinking, she is never responsible. If she enthusiastically consents after she's had a couple of drinks, and then the next day she says, oh wow, I don't feel good about that. I think I didn't consent. I don't see how that is fair. And if the man was drinking and was under the impression that the partner he was with really wanted to be with him and to be sexual with him, should he be put in jail and his life ruined because he misinterpreted? This seems to me a demonstrable injustice.
There, demonstrate it. It's a demonstrable injustice. You created a hypothetical situation. Great. Demonstrate it on the basis of an empirical claim that we can all have access to.
I'm demonstrating it on the basis of reason. If a man and woman sit down together and have a couple of drinks, and the woman agrees that she would like to be sexual with the man, and then changes her mind the next day, and if you want to call that rape, well, that's fine, but I don't see how it is rape. I don't see why a man should go to jail for that. Anyway, let's move on to another topic. Valerie Solanas wrote in her Scum Manifesto that men were subhuman and should be eliminated. Scum stands for the Society for Cutting Up Men. Solanas penned her Scum Manifesto way back in 1967, but lest you think it has interest only as a period piece, it has recently been reissued with a lengthy introduction by a professor at New York University, Avital Ronell, who has called it, quote, indisputably prescient, a stunning testament to the rage of an abused and destitute woman. And she said it was notable for its evocative exuberance. So when feminists advocate that men are inferior to women or even subhuman, and when they propose they be eliminated from the human race and so on, when they make such hateful statements, they generally get a pass. And that's typical of double standards that I'm talking about. Just a few days ago, there was a Twitter campaign by feminists using the hashtag #KillAllMen. There's a blogger named Stavers who has a post titled Kill All Men. She defends women's statements of hatred against men according to the schema that I've just mentioned. You know, men belong to a culture of violence. Men are the threat. Women are innocent. Women pose no threat. Therefore, women can say anything they want and get away with it. In terms of the capacity for violence, it's equal. And if you look at statistics about lesbian intimate relationships, they're about the same in terms of percentages of relationships.
Put the statistics on the board. They are not the same.
Well, you put the statistics on the board then.
By the men's rights groups to give the next talk.
Yeah. Okay, you'll have your chance then. Next, yeah.
So there's a lot of talk about women feeling safe on campus, and that was a big issue about trying to de-ratify the men's issue awareness group at Queen's. That one of the arguments made there was that because some women didn't feel safe, felt fearful of this group, that the group should be disbanded.
Well, I think there's a collapsing of two ideas in this whole discussion about safety, and safety is getting collapsed into the notion of comfort. And I think when these ideologues say that certain kinds of speech makes them unsafe, what they're really saying is that certain kinds of speech makes them uncomfortable because their worldview is being challenged, or they feel angry, or they feel not respected, who knows. But there is no right not to feel uncomfortable. Ideas don't have rights, and ideas should be challenged.
We hear a lot about safe spaces lately and how talk of men's human rights somehow makes a space unsafe. So this notion of safety then, and what we're really talking about is a vast metaphysical security in which no hint of doubt or discord, no threat to anyone's self-esteem or beliefs would ever appear. Well, it's a nice idea in a way, although actually it probably isn't, since human achievement happens in response to challenges and difficulty. And the irony, of course, is that feminists don't really want a safe space for all, since they're outraged when men suggest that it would be good to have a men's center where men could talk with one another and engage in advocacy for their causes. We see that feminists want safe spaces only for themselves and their allies. Their psychological well-being is to be secured at the expense of others. The problem with this notion, aside from the fact that it is ultimately unattainable, the problem is that it requires ever more vigilant and repressive measures to achieve it.
We're here with security.
Oh, you're part of security?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I just wanted to see if I get an interview with a speaker or something. Do you know when they're coming?
I have probably soon, I would imagine. But yeah, you're going to have to speak with the organizers once they get here, and they'll let you know.
Okay.
Okay. The organizers are right there, and I mentioned to them that you wanted to touch base with them about doing an interview. They don't want any cameras inside the auditorium.
We've only okayed one interview, but it's happening again with CFRC.
You're going to have to leave.
He's been instructed to kick me off campus.
Essentially, that's it.
Yes.
I've been told to come over and say that they have to leave.
You're being told to enforce one viewpoint over another on a university campus in Queen's University.
You know, I consider
in Canada,
universities to be forums of
open discussion.
Open discussion. Very strongly. I feel it very strongly. I am a Queen's graduate. Speaking as an on-duty security supervisor, I've been told to approach you and tell you that
are you going to?
I apologize for that.
Have you ever had this situation happen to you while you were a student here? Have you ever seen something like this?
No.
Queen,
do you have orders to remove Queen's journalism students as well?
Do you know? No, I don't. I'm surprised to receive these orders. Very surprised. But if you don't leave,
you can contact
I think I'd have to call the police.
He's our operations coordinator.
Good evening.
Hello. Hi.
How are you?
Good.
Are you recording right now?
Does it matter?
Yes.
Media
accreditation on you.
I don't have it on me, but I do have a press pass, but nobody ever cares about a press pass, and you know that.
Dave, remember, next time you're on campus, you need media accreditation. So
sure.
That's a big I will ask you.
Okay. So I'm not welcome here, basically. You're saying.
If you say you're media, then I will see media.
Talk about safe spaces on campus almost always becomes a tool to enforce compliance with particular ideological demands and to silence those who disagree. Recently, we've heard a lot about the rape culture that supposedly exists on university campuses, and I'm going to focus on that discourse of rape culture in some detail tomorrow night when I speak in Ottawa. For now, I just want to observe a couple of things. That feminist statistics about the 1 in 4 or the 1 in 5 are false. And feminist assertions of a rape culture are fantasy. There are very few rapes on university campuses, and there is a great deal of sympathy for the victims of rapes. The rape culture idea is something made up to shame and harass anyone who doesn't toe the feminist line. It is legitimate in disagreements to argue over facts, to try to undermine your opponent's position, but it is not legitimate to claim that your opponent's position is so heinous that it must not be heard at all. And this is what feminists do in suggesting that merely to articulate an anti-feminist position actually produces the harm that feminists claim, a culture of intimidation, and that therefore such discussion should and must be prohibited.
Yeah, and now at the University of Ottawa, the controversy has now even involved the president of the university, Alan Rock, who spoke out about this Facebook controversy with the over-the-top sexual comments going back and forth against Anne-Marie Roy. What did Alan Rock have to say? Do you know?
He had obviously decided that he would simply fall in line with feminist dogma. I absolutely agree that Anne-Marie Roy has every reason to feel that those comments were horrible and inappropriate and demeaning to her. If I'm understanding correctly, those comments were never intended for the young woman's
No,
ears
they were
eyes.
they were private conversations. Somehow
I mean, I've said
into
things in private that I would be, deeply ashamed if they were known publicly, and so in the heat of the moment or whatever. You say all sorts of nasty things about other people, and a few individuals' private comments do not a rape culture make. And so I was very disappointed in the president for making that statement, for saying, yes, indeed, we live in a rape culture. They will be making recommendations in the fall. My fear is that what those recommendations will be, they'll do nothing to actually make women safer on campus if they're not already safe. I believe that women are generally very, very safe on campus, but that these recommendations will do nothing about that, but they will simply inhibit what people can say. And this is the signature of a totalitarian ideology, that it not only wants to make sure that the laws treat people equally, it wants to control everything, what people can say, what they can joke about, the gestures they make. It wants to encroach further and further into the realm of individual freedoms.
It's sad that men have trouble forming a men's issues awareness society on any university campus in Canada today. Now, I don't know if we can all agree on that, but that seems to me the primary issue, and I don't know how you can argue that away. I mean, all of you have stood up and said, feminists aren't like that. Well, then why is there this opposition? And why are not all the pro-feminist students on campus, either here or elsewhere, at the places where these men's issues awareness societies have actually been prohibited? Why isn't there like a public outcry on the university campuses about it? Because it seems to me pretty shocking.
Because the men's rights movements is blaming feminism.
So what? They have every right to do so.
But you can't not expect a backlash from that.
Anytime you have a movement that's trying to shut down dissent and argument, you know that you're in the realm of a very powerful and potentially damaging orthodoxy. And so that's my concern.